Well, I think that the operation on the military side was a success. The army managed to destroy most of Hamas long-range rocket capability, managed to prevent any infiltration to Israel, and dealt basically in a good way with the rockets shot at Israel. But really, when you look at it on the national level, we are in a big problem. Hamas managed to emerge as the leader of the Islamic world in their fight over al-Aqsa, over the Temple Mount. Hamas managed to mobilize thousands of Israeli Arabs and also Palestinians in Judea and Samaria and in Lebanon to fight Israel. And what we experience inside Israel, we haven't seen events like that since the independence war. So you can look at it in two ways. One is really the technical military operation, but this is not the big thing. The big thing is what happened on the national arena. And here we have a problem. Now, supposedly Gaza is quiet, but Hamas today is inspiring all the terror attacks inside Israel. And we have to understand that we are in a very, very problematic period of time with multiple terror attacks. We heard Sinwar a few days ago calling every Arab to take a knife or an axe
specifically,
or a weapon and murder Jews. And following that, we saw the terrible attack in Eilat.
But we're left asking ourselves, is Hamas, are they contained to being able to essentially just do that, to call on others to carry out attacks? I mean, you served as a brigade commander in the combat engineers. If I had this right, you were the head of the military school of engineers. This is a central role in neutralizing the Hamas threats that existed for so many years here, specifically the tunnel threat, the underground barrier that Israel's worked on here as well. Can you say that that effort, among others, has that been very successful in essentially containing Hamas to getting to the microphone to call for others to attack?
Well, you know, I'm mentioning now, you mentioned at the beginning 20 years to the very large operation we did in Judea and Samaria to destroy the terror infrastructure. And indeed we saw that when you operate on the ground and when you go and you hit terror inside the heart of the cities and destroy completely the infrastructure, on the long term, you gain many, many years of stability and a complete change in the situation. In Judea and Samaria, you don't have rockets, you don't have long missiles. Overall, looking since the operation 20 years ago.
Defensive shield. You buy time for the politicians to act, essentially, right, to capitalize on that scenario.
Now, we didn't do that in Gaza. Yeah. In Gaza, we did the opposite. We retreated. And we created a situation where in Gaza, there is endless capability to grow. When each time we meet Hamas again, it's stronger, with more rockets, to a larger distance, with more explosives and more accurate. And this is what has been going on in the last 15 years. Now, there is only one way or two ways to do something about it and deter Hamas. It's either attack the leadership, and you heard the outcry of the Israelis in the last week calling for the targeting of Sinwar.
Right.
And the other possibility is to do what we did 20 years ago in Judea and Samaria, go in and destroy Hamas.
You know, you served closely alongside of a former chief of staff of the IDF, Moshe Boogie Ya'alon. I think that was when he served as chief of staff between 2002 to 5. It's very tumultuous, a defining time for Israel. My regular service overlapped with that as well in the IDF. But that was the time when Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip in 2005 here. You were up close for a lot of those conversations. How much talk at that time was there about this potential scenario that we're in now, that the total Hamas takeover, the hybrid monster that has been created in Gaza? Was that already something you saw coming?
Well, I think that what happened was pretty disturbing and amazing because, you know, when I started as aide de camp of the Chief of General Staff, it was at the peak of the fight, you know, still in Judea and Samaria, trying to stabilize the situation after the operation. And in Gaza, there was constant shooting of rockets and mortars in the surroundings and also in Jewish towns inside the Gaza Strip. And with all this going on, one day the Chief of Staff and I hear on TV that the Prime Minister of Israel, Prime Minister Sharon, decided to disengage from Gaza. Wow. The Chief of Staff of Israel hears on TV a strategic decision at that level of the Prime Minister to do that. A week later, we arrived to a cabinet meeting. I was sitting in this cabinet meeting, and Sharon said, I decided to disengage from Gaza. What's your assessment? Now, you know that usually you assess and then you decide, but in this case, he already decided, and the Chief of Staff and the head of Shabak, both of them said to Prime Minister Sharon, if you disengage from Gaza, if you connect Gaza to Egypt, if you withdraw in that way, in 1 year, Gaza will become Hamastan, Al-Qaedastan, and Hezbollahstan. This is what they said to him. Unfortunately, Sharon didn't listen to this very clear assessment. He moved forward with the disengagement, and in 1 year exactly, Hamas took over. And this is what we have seen since.